Hi, welcome back to Travel Agency in a Year podcast. My name is Rachel K., your host, travel agency owner, chick who's just talking about the business of running a travel agency. And we are on day 36. All right. Yesterday was establishing your communication philosophy. Today's episode is all about the communication standards in your business. You need to have very specific response times. And we're going to go into this here in a second. Oh, look at this ponytail if you're watching. You need to establish your primary channels for communication. And you need to outline when you use each method and why. Why would you text over email for a client? Why would you email over text? Great questions. This episode might be a little bit shorter. So, I just popped my bag sitting here. Yay, hypermobility. Okay. What is your response time for inquiries? What is your response time for clients from the moment they've deposited on their trip through travel? What is your response time for emergency travel support? What is your response time for follow-up travel after they come back, like the welcome home email? Everyone's going to vary. If you want, head over to elevatewithrachelk.com, sign up for the Success Circle, check out all of our courses. But this is part of the Success Circle. We've got workbooks where you have to outline it all out, and you basically create your SOP manual / future employee handbook with it and set the standards. So with inquiries, if they just email you and hi, I'd like to book a trip, how quickly are you going to reply to that? Or if they call and leave a voicemail, what are your standards? If it's an inquiry form that's set up through your CRM, I would suggest no more than 24 to 48 hours. And hopefully you've got a whole workflow set up to where they submit the form and then that you send your scheduler. But I also know sometimes repeat clients especially will reach out and be like, hey, I want to do this now. And so what is your response time for that? How quickly are you going to get back to that? Or one of your clients refers you to someone, just gives your phone number or email, and they just email you directly. They don't even go to your website. What is the response time on that? I do recommend checking your email twice a day. And like I said, if it's one-off emails like that, I'd say within a day, 1 to 2 business days. I also like the idea of the autoresponder when you're out of office, but I also am not a fan of it because when I send emails to people, I don't like, oh, I'm out of office. Yeah, I know it's 11:30 at night. I am fully aware I'm emailing you outside normal business hours, but I understand some people might not be aware of that and think that travel advisors are just available 24/7. During the trip planning process, once they've decided to work with you and signed your service agreement with or without a fee, you should still, I highly recommend discussing this with an attorney and have a service agreement that they fill out to take you on as their travel advisor, and they are fully aware of your terms and conditions. Okay. But anytime they reach out for trip planning with you in the middle of the process, like from proposal to uh, getting to on the plane or on the cruise ship, what is your response time for that? Does that take a higher priority than inquiries? Or is it going to take a little more time because you might need to do additional research, or you might have to call your supplier, whomever, and Lord knows how long they're going to respond back to you. Emergency travel support. Do you offer 24/7 emergency travel support? And how quickly are you going to respond? Hopefully that if you do offer the emergency travel support, hopefully you respond very, very quickly. Because that's they're in dire need if they're contacting you. And then they're welcome, follow up. Let's have a phone call or whatever. I'd like to hear about your experience. How soon after they come home, do you reach out for that? So you want to have those response times pretty well established. They are going to be within a range. You don't have to be like exactly 2 minutes. Like that's not going to happen. But like a nice range. So the inquiries could be 24 to 48 hours or 1 to 2 business days. The during trip planning process, it could be anywhere from 1 to 7 days. I do like to try to reply same day, if not the following day. But I will clarify with my clients, like, hey, I'm working on getting this for you. And it typically takes me about a week to get this sorted out for you, whatever it is. Like, because I have to email and contact these other people and we're all working on multiple trips. So I just have to wait for their response. So I will reply immediately during travel planning process, like same day. But I'm going to be like, hey, it's typically this response time. I'll follow up as soon as I can. And then travel support, we've talked about that. If you do 24/7 emergency travel support, I would say that should be within 15 to 30 minutes response time. And then follow-ups would be, I like to not even bother people until 2 or 3 days after they get back. And I wanted to mention in this episode today, there is a course creator. The name is Marcy Munsterman, and I think she has Proposed to Close and Close to Home. And this might be part of her course. I'm not really sure, but she does talk about like how she does this from the moment they sign on until you've closed the trip, and then from when you've closed the trip, going all the way home. And I think it's very in depth and detailed. I haven't taken either of these courses or really seen them. I just know I've heard a lot of good feedback about them. If you need help getting that set up in detail, like all the things. So, what does this look like for you? And when do you do your quarterly review and your annual review and your monthly reviews? You need to be doing all of these things. Are you adhering to your own SOPs? Do you need to fire yourself? Do you need to give yourself a 90-day probation? What's going on here? Are you running your business the way you want it to be run? Or are you, oh, what is that? Do as I say, not as I do. Okay. What are your primary channels for communication? Do you do like social media DMing? Are you fine with that? This is how you want to run your business, but I want you to consider scalability. And that is obviously when you grow and you start to hire other people to support you, would they have access to your DMs? Would you want to give them access to your social DMs? Or would you be more comfortable with an email? Or would you be more comfortable with like a Google Voice phone that you can forward to their cell phone when you aren't answering calls? Like there's a number of different ways you can run your company. But I do want you to think longer term. If you just fly by the seat of your pants and just do what you can, if you do grow, it's going to be major, major growing pains because you haven't prepared. Think of it like your business is a baby. I know everybody's business is either McDonald's or a baby, if you haven't picked up on it by now. That's know how to raise a kid, know what McDonald's is like. That's all you need to know. You don't need to listen to any more of this. But think about it, like parents who just have a newborn and they're just like, well, we'll just see what happens and do no research, kind of have an idea and kind of like just take all this information from other parents telling them what to do. They're just flying by the seat of their pants. Like their kid might end up getting hurt if something crazy could happen. Versus a parent who's like, oh, I took these parenting classes, for example, and I know it's not going to go perfectly, but I know when the kid starts walking, I need to start protecting like the cabinets, the kitchen cabinet door handles. Can they get into them? Can they open these drawers? Is it time to do that? Should we just go ahead and do it before the baby's even born? Like preemptive planning versus just going. So that's what I mean by if you're okay with DMs now, if you want to stay just you, that's a fine method. And like texting, that's fine. If you just want to stay you and like you could still do a pretty decent amount of like volume of business just as you. I'm not saying like, well, you're just not going to make any money. No, you can make really good money just being you. But if you have an inkling of wanting to grow, you might want to consider switching up your primary channels of communication. That was a long rant. Okay. So, other channels of communication are email, phone, texting. You could have document sharing. You could have, which is going to be like via an email address, right? That's good for like contracts too. If you have service agreements that for some reason you don't do through your travel CRM. Like me, I do destination weddings and travel management, and I have contracts that are like separate to keep things safe if I'm going to be traveling with them. I send them a totally different contract that's like, this is not a part of my travel agency. This is what I'm doing, and you're hiring me for this, you know? So that would be like a document sharing thing. I'm a big fan of everything via email or scheduled phone calls, and I like to send an email after the phone call, typically like summarizing the call. Unless it's like, hey, I need help booking flights. I'm not going to email them afterwards and be like, per our conversation, I'm typing, by the way, if you're watching this, per our conversation, we booked these flights and here's your confirmation. No, I'm not going to do all that. But if it's like various topics were discussed to make sure we're on the same page, yeah, I'm going to email them and be like, okay, we touched on these 5 things. I'm a big fan of email and scheduled phone calls. I'm not a fan of texting myself because I do a lot of group travel. And while I have guest phone numbers in the groups, I don't have them all saved in my phone because then I'd have like thousands of contacts I'd have to constantly add and delete. No, thank you. So I won't do texting unless it's a guest that is riding the struggle bus with getting emails or reading emails. And I know that we have already done phone calls together. And I know that text is how that's going to work for them best. But my standard, especially for groups, is email and schedule a phone call. So my point is, I'm telling you what I do because when do you use each method and why? Now, I will text people, but it's like the 11th hour. They haven't submitted final payment, for example, for a group, and they're past due, and they've already like opened the emails about, whoopsie, you missed your final payment and haven't replied to me. Now it's time to be the telemarketing bill collector, and you're calling and texting. And then the real shady thing I do with the group host, if it's really bad, then I let the group host know you've got to reach out to this person. They're dodging payments and now it's on you to pay this. Sorry, we got to get this done, you know? But when do you use each method for channels of communication and why? I s- I ditched the DMs. I don't even use socials anymore, but I ditched the DMs long ago. I didn't like people finding my personal like Facebook profile back when I had it and being like, "Hi, I'm invited to this wedding." I don't know why they sound like that, but that's fine. And I'd have I remember there was an update to Facebook too, like the chat got really weird and people would send me chat requests that were not like wedding guests or anything, but just like people. And I wouldn't even get a notification that they had sent a chat request. I'm like, what? It just get like thrown in spam for no reason. Anyway, so I just stopped the DMs myself. But you could use DMs. Like I know some agents do still use like social media DMs to communicate because they know that's the channel specific clients prefer to communicate through. I like to have as much as I can in writing that's easily accessible and easy to find, which is why I prefer email and emails through my CRM. Okay, so that is communication standards. That's just the response times. There are more communication standards. You can decide what you want to do. Tomorrow's episode, we're going to talk about these 6 different phases for the overall travel client's journey. And that can help you clarify further communication standards. And I hope all 3 of these episodes together, compounding, help you really hone in on what your communication philosophy should be. Yep, we got some good episodes here. Just talking to myself. All right, have a good day.